Hi, welcome to Mrs. Park's Algebra 1 class. This is Chapter 9, Section 4. Today will be a nice short lesson again, solving quadratic equations by completing the square. Okay, why? Well, in competition, skateboarders may launch themselves from a half pipe into the air to perform tricks. The equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 20t plus 12 can be used to model their height in feet after t seconds. To find how long a skateboarder is in the air, if he is 25 feet above the half pipe, you can solve. Instead of h, put 25, and then solve by completing the square. Alright, so how do we complete squares? In lesson 8.6, you solve equations by completing square root of each side. Okay, so this method worked only because the expression on the left side was a perfect square. In perfect square trinomials in which the leading coefficient is 1, there's a relationship between the coefficient of the x term and the constant. So when you solve for perfect squares, for instance, if you had x squared equals 25, that meant x equals plus or minus square root of 25, which in this case is plus or minus 5. Okay. So same concept here. We're going to use this in this section here. Okay, but it's going to look a little different. Okay, so if you have x plus 5 in parentheses squared, if you remember, this is x squared plus 2 times 1 times 5x plus 5 squared. Okay, you used to have a plus b squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Okay, and this is what you got. Okay, notice that 10 over 2 squared is 25. To get the constant term, divide the coefficient of the x term, the 10, by 2. So 10 divided by 2, which is 5, squared is 25. Any quadratic expression in the form x squared plus bx can be made into a perfect square by using a method called completing the square. Alright, so completing the square. To complete the square for any quadratic expression of the form x squared plus bx, follow the following steps. There's 3 steps here. Find 1/2 of b, okay, half of that, the coefficient of x, so 1/2 of b, square that number, and then add it in the end. Okay, so 1/2 of b, square it, and you add it to the end here. Okay. So what does that look like? Alright, so if you have x squared plus 4x plus c, okay, find the value of c to make it a perfect square trinomial. Alright, you can either use method 1, use the algebraic tiles. So we have x squared, and then you have 4x. How much more do you need to add here to make it a perfect square? Okay, so that means you have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more. Okay, you can do that, but you need to be very cautious about this. You have to actually have the tiles like this, or you have to be very careful when you're measuring, when you're drawing this out, so that you know exactly what it looks like. So this one, I'm not sure if I would recommend if you don't actually have the tiles. Alright, method 2. So this is what we learned, the 3 steps. Half of this, half of b, okay, which is 2. Square that, so 2 squared is 4. And then you add it, you just put it, you add that result in the end. So the c here should be a 4. Okay, so your turn. So go ahead and do half of this, square it, and put it in here. That's all you're doing. So go ahead and pause the video, do number 1, and come back when you're done. Alright, welcome back. Solve equations by completing a square. You can complete the square to solve quadratic equations. First, you must isolate the x squared and bx terms. Alright, so here, it's not what we looked at. It's not the same kind of example 1. Alright, so if we move the number 12 to the other side, you have x squared minus 6x equals 7. Now, this is what we're working with here. Okay, if you do 1/2 of this and square it, so 1/2 of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. So if you add 9 as you can see, if you add 9 here, you need to add 9 to the other side as well, okay, to make it equal. Equations means that it's equal. So if you add 9 to each side, add to one side, then you need to add 9 to the other side. All right, so now we can do we can complete the square. So it becomes x minus 3 in parentheses square. 7 plus 9 is 16. Okay, this is where you get rid of the square root. So now you have x minus 3. Get rid of that square by doing square root of, okay, 16. Square root of 16 is 4. Okay, so remember you have to do plus and minus. Now you have x minus 3 equals plus or minus 4. X equals 3 plus or minus 4. So there's two answers. 3 plus 4 is 7. 3 minus 4 is negative 1. So here are your two answers, 7 and negative 1. Okay, so quick recap. What do we do here? You want to isolate it so that it's just x squared minus your bx, or plus. Let's put plus or minus bx. Okay, isolate it so that you have everything else to the other side. Okay, now you can make it look x squared plus bx plus, remember it's 1/2 of b squared. When you do that, make sure you add it to whatever you had here, plus 1/2 b, 1/2 b squared. Okay, then you can rewrite this as x, if it's plus or minus, b squared. Okay, sorry, 1/2 b. Okay, now get rid of the square by doing a square root of, okay, and then adding or subtracting whatever you had here. Okay, so go ahead and solve number 2. Again, what you're doing here, you want x squared minus 12x. Rewrite it. So it's now minus 3 on each side is 5. Here, do 1/2 of this and square it and add it to each side. Okay, and then make this into a square. So you'll have something that's like this. Okay, and then you'll get rid of that square by doing plus or minus square root of whatever you had there. Okay. So if you're not sure, rewind and pause the previous slide and go through the steps that way too. Okay, and go ahead and do number 2 and pause the video, do number 2, come back when you're done. Alright, let's move on. To solve a quadratic equation in which the leading coefficient is not 1, divide each term by the coefficient, then isolate the x squared and x terms and complete the square. What that means is, right now, you have this nasty negative 2 there. So I don't want that. I want just x squared. So let's get rid of that by dividing every single term by negative 2. So this divided by negative 2 makes it x squared. This divided by negative 2 makes it negative 4. This divided by negative 2 makes it 9. And 0 divided by negative 2 stays 0. Now I have what I want. Subtract 9 on each side. Now you have x squared minus 4x. 1/2 of 4 squared is plus 4. If you add a 4 here, you need to add 4 there. Now you can rewrite this as x minus 2 squared. And this is now negative 5. Okay. So you see here, if it's a negative 5, you can't square something and get a negative number. So for this equation here, no real number has a negative square. So this equation has no real solutions. Okay? There's no such thing as if you square something and have a negative number. So this one has no solutions. Alright, go ahead, and this is the last slideshow, so do number 3. Complete the square. I'll solve this by completing the square. And when you're done, make sure you put that in your book bag for full credit homework. Thank you for watching.